Listen. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast. I am Amit. K-Dot is on his way back from France, my usual co-host. So I'm joined today by JD, a huge Jaguars fan and an absolute encyclopedia of NFL knowledge. JD, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man. Yeah, I'm doing good. Things are good. Work's dying down a little bit before it picks up, so I'm feeling good. It's kickoff weekend, kickoff day. I'm ready.
Yeah, football is officially back. At the time of this recording, Bills-Rams is going to happen. So maybe I'll even ask you for a prediction there as well, JD. But this is going to be, everyone, this is going to be about the Commanders Jaguars game, 1 p.m. FedEx Field. Commanders home opener. There's a lot of optimism around it, but we're going to hear about the Jaguars' perspective as well. So we're going to begin with JD talking about the expectations of the Jaguars, how the offseason has gone, things like that. Then we're going to jump into the matchups, the Commanders offense against the Jaguars defense, and then the Jaguars offense against the Commanders defense. We'll conclude with a prediction. So JD, why don't we begin with the Jacksonville Jaguars? So last season, they ended the season on a high. Carson Wentz ends up losing in Jacksonville and then becomes our quarterback as a result of that game. That being said, you guys still finish with the number 1 overall pick, take Travon Walker, have another first round pick with Devin Lloyd. So there's some excitement over there, certainly. But what about the rest of the offseason? How are you guys feeling heading into this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the fans, me excluded, but I'll get into that, really wanted Baalke to go, GM Trent Baalke from San Francisco. I think he probably signed a lot of mediocre guys, spent a lot of cap. If you look into next year's cap, what it looks like, it's not exactly great, but that's obviously something you can get rid of and deal with. There are a lot of bad contracts, honestly, I think on the books from the year before with Urban, but that was still obviously bulky. So I think the fan temperature wanted him out, but it was made pretty clear by the ownership he's not going anywhere. So I think a lot of those fears have died down. I think it was kind of eclectic. I really thought the Jaguars would acquire more high-powered receivers than Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. Even in the draft, I was expecting some kind of receiver help, but we didn't really get that. So it's a little frustrating on that end. But the defense is completely revamped. At least all the bad parts are, except for maybe Rashawn Jenkins is one of the safeties, but whatever. I think that's something that's going to be really interesting to watch. It's very young, the defensive front. I think Josh Allen is the oldest, best guy there. Maybe Shaquille Griffin. But Josh has been with us for the entirety of his career, and Shaquille was there last year. Shaquille, yeah. So yeah, it's a revamped defense. The offensive line got a little bit of reboot with, your ex guy, Scherff,
right.
Which I'm very happy to have on my team, very much so. Would have preferred Terran Armstead, but it's okay. I think we're okay at the tackles. Just some young guys. Yeah, this is a young team. My expectations aren't super high. I'm really just watching to see how Doug Peterson and Trevor do. And you can do a lot with a good coach and a good quarterback, so.
Oh, absolutely. And so let me ask you this. So again, a lot of turnover. Darius Williams, a corner that was also brought in from LA.
I love him. Yeah.
And so would you say the strength, now I was looking at the linebackers, of course, Josh Allen, Travon Walker, and Devin Lloyd, 3 first-round picks, similar to if you look at Washington and our Commanders front 4. We have 4 first-round picks over there. Would you say the defense is the strength of the team right now, or is it the offense with Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and the boys?
Yeah, I think it'll be the defense next year because the defense is just so young, it's so tough to see where they're going to end up. I think they did taking Walker at number 1 so they could make, because he's versatile or whatever, right? He can play kind of inside, outside. This is a 3-4 set. So I think the Jaguars line has or at least the linebackers, the front 7 have a lot of depth, more depth than I think people give them credit for, with Arden Key, Chason, who's a first round pick, but kind of a bust, Allen, Walker. And then we got Lloyd, Aluakon, and we signed Foye, starts in F. I don't know how to say his last name.
Right, he's on the injury report is limited. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, I just
as your D
totally
tackle.
forget his name.
Right.
Yeah. I also really liked Ohio State project defensive nose tackle, really. Totally like on his name. Devin Hamilton or Devon Hamilton, really big fan of him. Still like Dwayne Smoot. I feel like they have a lot of guys there. And also they drafted Chad Muma in like the
That's
third
right.
round
Yeah.
too. Yeah, Devin Lloyd, they signed. Like I was saying, who was the guy? Yeah, Foyese Oluwakan. So there's a lot of new faces here, and really in that front seven, which is interesting. Pretty young, a lot of those guys. I think we probably dealt it a little bit too much money for some of them, but their contracts are pretty small. My thing with the Jags, at least, is or at least this offseason, might be a little bit of a conspiracy theory, just my own headcanon, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Like Balky's throwing these like 2 to 3 year deals at that are like a lot of front loaded money. So we just get enough talent around Trevor to like see what happens. And then eventually when Trevor is hit more of his stride, his third or fourth year, quarterbacks do take a little bit longer to develop than people realize. Not everyone can be Justin fucking Herbert. Okay. So I think the conspiracy theory is just get a few guys around and get at least a talent there. And then we eventually go for the bigger contracts and the bigger extensions when we figure out who's good there and who's not. So that's just kind of like where I'm at with at least a lot of these signings. They seem like pretty short signings, pretty short stuff. So I'm just hoping that that's the plan. Keep the good ones that have been okay, that have been with us, and then get rid of the bulk that was just mistakes because they're short deals.
Okay, no, that makes total sense. And now that we're on the topic of Trevor Lawrence, why don't we jump into the matchup and let's talk about the Jaguars offense led by Trevor Lawrence and now new head coach Doug Peterson against our Commanders defense. So what are you looking to see this Sunday at FedEx Field from Trevor Lawrence, from Travis Etienne, from the new shiny object in Christian Kirk and those other wide receivers against our Commanders defense? What's your perception of the Commanders defense? Floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of I was a Commanders fan last year. I still like the defense. It really sucks about what Chase might miss half the year or something like that. I saw a report. I mean, I know he's out for a bit, right?
He's out for at least the first 4. Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the pop, yeah.
Right.
I mean, even with him like being out last year, the 2 defensive interior guys, Allen and Payne, man, they were just going off crazy. They are crazy. It's fully healthy, probably a defensive line in the NFL. And I like building my teams from the inside out. And it seems what like the football team is doing, which I really like. So I'm like a big fan of that. In terms of like the offense versus the defense, I mean, I'm just looking for another repeat of Week 18 with the Jaguars last year, where Trevor looked really good. And that was just him post Urban. I really do believe it's so hard to tell with coaches what is really going on. We really don't have any insight as layman fans of like the sport or whatever. Like we don't have like the inside information, so I really don't know what's going on in terms of like head coach and how the coaching affects it. But what I saw last year, what I believe Trevor did in college, and what I believe Doug Peterson as a head coach, I'm just really excited what he can do. I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know who's going to play inside, outside. We saw a lot of Zay Jones and Marvin Jones in the slot last year, but obviously signing a guy like Christian Kirk who broke out as like a slot receiver, it'll be very interesting to see where they line up. And they've got a lot of speed on this team. Besides the guys that I mentioned, obviously, sorry, I'm all over the place. Marvin Jones. He's probably the slowest guy out there, but we've got guys like Jamal Agnew, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Seth Williams, guys who can run really fast, who have like hot, really low or whatever, really good 40s. And then we're also getting back Travis Etienne, and it looks like James Robinson might be healthy enough to play too, pretty good. So it's just so many question marks for this team. I don't know what to expect, but I'm very, 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 very curious to see how it plays out. New coach, new scheme, new team, Trevor Lawrence year 2. It's I don't know what more insight I can bring besides Trevor's a generational quarterback prospect, and I think he'll show that this year.
Sure. And so against this Commanders defense, which pretty stout against the run last year, horrendous against the pass, and we are bringing back virtually the exact same defense. So hopefully the coaching from our perspective with Jack Del Rio and Chris Harris,
ex-Jaguars, right?
Secondary coach. Hopefully it's gotten better, but where do you see the targets going? What about the rushing passing split or balance, if you will, on the Jaguar side of things?
I think the Jaguars' identity has always been kind of nebulous. We've never really been like a big offensive powerhouse, except for when we were first back with like Brunell and McCardle and Fred Taylor in the glory days of the early 2000s when I wasn't really a fan. So that's fun. I think the defense is probably going to be pretty good, but I expect a lot of they just have a lot of fast guys. So I was thinking like a 60-40 split running back wise between Etienne and Robinson. I don't know which way that'll go, but probably Etienne more. But I think it's just a lot of game flow for both of these teams, really. Because I think Wentz is better at protecting the football than he is at almost anything else, at least throwing interceptions. And with
Sure.
a good offensive line.
The raw
Yeah.
number, right?
Yeah, really is what. And I think it's, yeah, I mean, just interception wise, I know he fumbles, whatever. I care less about that because I'm blaming the offensive line for that most of the time.
Hmm.
So I think it's going to depend on a lot of game script. I mean, they have, Antonio Gibson, who's, I don't want to go too much into your offense or sorry, defense or whatever, but I think they both have hard nosed runners. They both have good passing catch. I love JD McKissick. Like, it could be a very similar situation, but maybe you guys have the edge at receiver because I do love Terry McLaurin.
So are you projecting out maybe some targets for the running backs, like a lot
Yeah,
more than we would
for
probably
sure.
expect? Okay,
For
and so would
ETN,
that
for
be
sure.
for ETN for sure, not necessarily
Mhm.
James Robinson?
Yeah, I mean, James Robinson isn't a bad receiving back, but it kind of feels like a moot point when you have ETN there. And I'm not really a big fan of ETN. I'm also sorry, I didn't even mention the tight ends too, because I mean, they have three tight ends they're going to use. They're going to use Dan Arnold. They're going to use Chris Manhurts, who's more of like a blocking guy, and they're going to use Evan Ingram, maybe in the slot even. So
Mm.
it's a lot of new guys. And I don't know where the targets are going to go. I have no idea what kind of thing they're going to run because it seems like they just got like a fast offense with a lot of slot receivers, not too many good outside guys. So I
Okay.
just wonder how that game is going to work. I like both your quarterbacks. I mean, I like William Jackson the third or whatever, and I like Fuller. Like, I like both these guys.
Yeah.
And with the defensive pressure you guys can get, probably will still get against the Jaguars. I can see them playing very well. So
Yeah, and the big worry, for those that don't know already, Kam Curl, starting safety, who very good, did not practice Wednesday, did not practice today at the time of this recording. So there is a good chance he ends up missing the game, and that means you're going to see Derek Forrest or Jeremy Reeves, maybe even Percy Butler, a bunch of really young guys, right? I mean, we were celebrating with Jeremy Reeves making the roster. He's worked so hard all these years, and he finally made the 53, and now boom, might be a starter. So we're going to see how this all plays out, but that would be the one worry for me is in that secondary if Kam Curl misses and Christian Kirk has some chemistry already with Trevor Lawrence, it could be a long day. So we're going to see what happens on that side of the ball. We need to get after him as always, but you could say that about any matchup. You always want to get after the quarterback. Let's just flip the script. Now you're seeing Carson Wentz for the second straight NFL game that matters, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. So tell us about
Yeah.
the Jaguars defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 3-4 defense that I usually hate 3-4, but they're really, have focused in on making it like they've really got the personnel, I think, for it. They're going to come out with a lot of different looks, I think, like I mentioned a little bit at the top of the podcast. I'm a big fan, I'm a fan of them drafting Walker for his versatility. I mean, Dwayne Smoot can move inside and outside. They still have Roy Robertson Harris, who's not that bad. He can play a little bit on the edge. Arden Key, I think, can play at defensive edge, or he can play even like linebacker, blitzing linebacker. So I just think that there's a lot of, at least in the defensive front. I mean, they don't have enough starting positions to really start Chad Muma, but he's like a third round pick, and I think he'll get a lot of play in here. So I'm really just thinking that they're going to sub in so many of these guys consistently over and over again, just getting that rotation. And I mean, last time we saw Doug Peterson win a Super Bowl is when he had a big rotation at least the edge situation. So I think there's going to be a lot of that. It seemed like our cornerback Tyson Campbell, who was drafted in the top of the second round, kind of came into his own last year. And Shaq Griffin, I think, is already really good. And we signed Darius Williams, who's a great slot cornerback. I think if they're able to get pressure and play against Wentz like they did last year, I think this could be pretty tough for them to move the ball through the air. But I mean, it's hard for me to count out Terry McLaurin when this is the best quarterback he's ever had. So
Right. So amongst those pass catchers, let's say we are throwing left, right, and center. I don't anticipate that being the case, but let's say we did. Which of these receivers you mentioned, McLaurin, does Curtis Samuel scare you at all? What about Jahan Dotson, the rookie out of Penn State?
yeah, I'm a Penn State fan too, so I'm pretty well versed with Dotson. I liked him. Was he a second round pick?
First round pick.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of a reach. I don't think it. I don't think he's bad. I don't think anything like Curtis Samuel said he was like hurt a bunch last year, right? Like I don't think he played nearly as much. Yeah, which is kind of making people fade him a little bit. But people really hyped in the signing. I thought it was pretty fine too, especially the money they got him for. I really just think Terry should dominate like always. I mean, like I remember watching last year, just seeing how do I forget your quarterback's name from last year?
Taylor
Oh my
Heinicke.
God. Yeah, Heineke, dude. I mean, anytime he threw the ball up and like was close enough to Terry, he would just come down with it. I don't think Carson Wentz has that bad of a deep ball. So I really think that we could see a lot of, pound the ball. with Gibson because he's a hard-nosed runner, tough,
Yeah, I think
and then
so.
just airing it out to McLaurin, and that could spell trouble for any defense, especially a young one like the Jaguars are. Because I will say, as much as I like it, and as much as I think they're going to switch it around a bunch, it's super fun. They're super young. I mean, a lot of these guys is their first NFL action.
You can curse, by the way. I heard I was about to come out.
Yeah,
That's totally
sorry.
fine.
I
yeah,
should
yeah.
have mentioned before, but I curse. So
Hey,
I
you
yell.
got free reign over here, just to be clear.
Okay.
So
I
I
appreciate
heard
it.
it was a go ahead. That's totally fine. Okay, so you and I are seeing the same sort of offensive game plan for the Commanders, which is use Antonio Gibson. You know, he's got the fumbling issue. I personally am
Yeah, I hate
optimistic that
that.
that's past him,
Mhm.
that he had that adverse reaction after the first preseason game. He's learned from it. So I anticipate using Gibson a whole bunch. I anticipate last season, the Commanders targeted the running back position more than just about any other team. It was extremely close. JD McKissick was used a lot. Antonio Gibson was used. I mean, you name it, they used it. They've used that position a whole lot. From the Jaguar side of things, in the 3-4, is it more of a zone? Do they have a specific linebacker that will be guarding a JD McKissick? What does that look like? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole new system, whole new coaching staff. So
Right.
I can't
Too soon to
I would
tell, perhaps.
expect. Yeah, I mean, I think Lloyd is pretty good at coverage. Muma's more of like a tackling machine. I wouldn't trust him in coverage. He reminds me a lot of Paul Posluszny on
Yeah.
the Jaguars back in the day.
Another Penn State guy. Yeah.
Yeah, another Penn State guy. It's true. It was back when they were linebacker you. I could see. I don't think they're going to shadow a lot of these. I don't think so. I mean, except for it might be Shaq might follow McLaurin the whole time because he's their best cornerback. But I really don't feel like there'll be that kind of thing. I think you'll see a lot of like weird defensive pressure. So I'd imagine a good amount of zone. But I mean, I do really like the Commanders' offensive line still, even with the loss of your boy on our team now, Scherff. I still am. Oh, you guys got Norwell too. I forgot we traded guards.
Norwell and
That's
Trey
an
Turner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Trey. Yeah, for sure. I don't like Turner that much, but Norwell is a very solid guard option for sure, and especially with this, but with the it's the line wasn't what it was 2 years ago for Washington, but it's still very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard. I don't have a good answer, honestly. I just don't. About
That's
that.
totally fine.
Like I said, yeah, the whole podcast, it's just kind of everything is so new. I just need all this new information to like make a reasonable assessment.
So
You know what I mean?
you're saying once you actually see the game, once you acquire sort of like you're seeing it, you will be.
I need a few weeks for this,
and that's fair
defense to, like,
because
even
with the new
know.
coaching staff,
Yeah.
makes total sense. I actually want to go back because that
Yeah.
reminded me. I had the exact same question. So you were saying Travis Etienne on the Jaguars offensive side of the ball is going to be targeted in the pass game some here and there. Now, what we've seen this preseason from the Commanders is Jamin Davis, our first round pick from last year, is
Yeah.
the guy that is actually marking people one-on-one out of the backfield. So how do you feel about that potential matchup specifically?
You know, it's funny. I consider them both first round busts, so that's funny to me. It's very interesting to me. Yeah, well, can Davis tackle? Like, is he a good tackler?
Yeah, he's a good tackler. There were moments where he would miss tackles last year or maybe be in the wrong position. It's definitely gotten better. As you can tell, he looks more comfortable right now. But until it's, a live NFL game in his sophomore year, second year here, it's hard to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think Travis Etienne is like he'll go down so fast. Like I don't think he's very strong or tough or any of that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
So I'm just not a real big believer in talent, but I think Trevor, is. I mean, we saw what a guy who was really good in college could do with a receiving option that was with him last year. Yeah, I'm referencing Burrow and Chase. Obviously, these two are not the same.
Right.
But I do think there's probably an innate connection there from college that'll at least see him to get some targets. But I think people are really Doug Peterson in the past has used a lot of committees, but I wonder if that was just because his running back room wasn't that good. And I think that could be said for the Jaguars running back room now with Robinson coming off the injury, the Achilles injury, which is obviously huge. But they signed Jermichael Hasty. They're going with 4 running backs. I didn't think Steve Connor looked that impressive in the preseason games. So I wonder if he's a little bit in like the doghouse. And as much as I say I think Travis Etienne will be involved, I think I listed like 10 guys who could all get like 5 receptions.
Oh, certainly.
Like it's just there's a lot of dudes who will be catching the football. I mean, the 2 tight ends, like I said, Arnold. We got
Man hurts.
Evan Ingram. Yeah,
right.
James Robinson can catch, but I don't know how much he will. Travis Etienne, that's 4. Then Kirk. I want to say like about eight guys who can get like over 5 targets if we throw the ball that much.
Okay, so that's a pretty balanced approach. Let's jump over to the prediction. From what I last saw, the Commanders 2.5 point favorites. Of course, the line fluctuates, as it always does. And welcome back to the NFL season, man. I'm so excited for this.
I'm ready. I got my Jalen jersey on for tonight. So.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So before we get to Bills Rams and your prediction there, how about Jaguars Commanders? What do you see happening? Give me a score and a winner.
Yeah, I like the Jaguars 20-17, and I hate picking my own team because I don't think they're that good, and I think the Commanders are probably better. I don't know that I've just a lot of the week. I'm usually really good at like the week one slate. I feel like I can normally identify a lot of mismatches or a lot of where there's a lot of money on something that was based off of last year's results that didn't happen, and I'm pretty in line with what the odds makers have for this year. So it's a little weird for me to go against the grain here, but I really just like the Jaguars plus 2.5, +3, whatever you can get at. I really like that the most. But I think low scoring game. I think the over under is like 44 or 42. I take the under. So you go under.
Okay.
Yeah, I take the under for sure. I consider myself a whiz of the over under stuff. So I'm
okay.
Take my thing as gospel. No. But yeah, I think it's gonna be like we talked about, low scoring game. I think they're gonna run the ball a lot this time because I think the defenses are just good against the pass. So but I know you said that the two guys in the interior who I absolutely love were very good against.
Yeah, we would love if you guys run. Yeah, we would love it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand. I think that's something they'll either do that or run through the air or whatever they want to do in that regard. But yeah, I think I've just got it like that. I looked at I'm really a big fan of like Big Cat Country, which is I think it's the SB.
It's your SB Nation.
Yeah, sure. SB Nation, because I'm looking at your guys' one too now. And they have us both teams seem to be optimistic about who's going to win. I think it's a pretty even matchup. I think it's just a really even matchup here. So I'll just take my Jaguars plus 2.5 and see what happens.
Okay. So Jaguars 2017 from JD over here.
You could reverse that even. You could even reverse that.
Okay. So you feel it's a true toss up.
I really don't know where to go. Because I think we talked off the podcast. I have Washington over 8.5. That's where I got it. So I have the over on that.
Right. And that being wins.
Yes, that being wins. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Over 8.5. So you're still optimistic on this Commanders team, but maybe a bit slow out of the gates with the Jaguars nipping this one.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
No, that's totally fair. I am going to pick the home team. I'm going to pick the Washington Commanders to win 24-17. So that is just south of your under. I'm glad to be on the right side of the whiz over there, JD. But yeah, I think it's going to be I'm a bit nervous now that it's closer to time. Now that, Trevor Lawrence is entering his second year, and the stuff that's been around, Commanders camp, it's nervy times, but we need to win this one. And I think because we need to win it and because of the pressure on the squad, I think they do come through. So Commanders 24-17, JD's got Jaguars 20-17. Before we let you go, Bills Rams, and then you of course need to plug yourself. Who do you like in the Bills Rams game?
Yeah, I took the Bills under 11.5 this year, so I'm down on the Bills. I think they have
but you were like the only person down on the Bills. Everybody else is crowning them.
Everyone's got them in their Super Bowls. Super Bowls. Yeah. It's a little crazy for me. I'm not a huge fan. I mean, I do really like the defense, honestly. Okay. Let me just do that. I like the Rams in this one. I like the Rams. If you want to put me to a score, I like 27-20. I like the under. I think the Rams are just a better team, inside and out. The offensive line is, I think, where the biggest disparity is, and I think the Rams have such a better O-line than the Bills do. I think that could be huge when Aaron Donald is the guy you got to block, and even with, the Buffalo defensive line, which I really, really like, I think is really, really good. I still think that's just like my edge predictor there.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's
Stafford seems healthy. Sorry. Yeah.
What's your concern level with Stafford's elbow? That's been huge this offseason.
Yeah. They talked about him getting surgery. It seems like it's better. This is another thing, like with the coach stuff. I just not privy to the information. So I got to kind of just go off what they're telling me. I think Robinson's probably an upgrade over Woods. But maybe not that much. Maybe it is though. I'm still a big believer in Allen Robinson, another Penn State guy.
Another Penn State guy. I was going to say, right.
But no, I don't know. The Bills have Diggs, but I'm not a big believer in Davis or Knox or anything like that. And I still think Josh Allen is more turnover prone than people give him credit for.
Okay. Well, there you have it. All right. So Rams 27-20, Jaguars.
Wait, what about you?
17. Hey, you caught me. This one's really tight, Jesse.
It's tough. No, don't worry. It's tough. For sure.
So the Rams run 3 wide receiver sets more than anybody, and Van Jefferson's out.
Mhm.
So I think this means that they are going to also, I don't believe Stafford's elbow is 100% or even close. So I think they're going to run a lot. And I do think that their defense is going to play well enough that this is going to be a surprisingly low scoring game. I don't think Josh Allen and the Bills with all that hype are just going to be able to do whatever they want to. How often does that happen where they get crowned and the team that gets crowned in the offseason just proves everyone right? That just doesn't happen. So I've got the Rams winning this one in a bit of a weird score, 23-16. Okay. So yeah, also under.
Yeah, there you go.
With the Rams, because they're opening at home. They have something to prove unbelievably already. And I think Cooper Kupp will still get his, but I think Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson end up having nice games. I think that's where this comes from for.
Don't forget Kyron Williams either.
I'm
a big fan of Kyron too. I think they give a three-headed monster this year.
They've been talking about the whole bunch. So we're going to see what happens there. But this was District Divided, a DC sports podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. I am Amit. That is JD, my guest co-host and Jaguars fan this week to help preview the matchup. JD, where can we find you?
Yeah, hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Baking Games Jesse. You can find me on Twitter. I got all the stuff. I'm doing a lot more betting content this season or whatever because I think I'm good at that shit. And it's more actionable. Like it's not actionable. It's easier to see where you're wrong and you're right in like a more concrete sense than just like other shit. Like I get this wrong, get this right. So I like doing that because I like being right. So yeah, find me on Twitter.
Okay, find him on Twitter. He's got some betting advice for you, and hopefully everything goes well for everybody. But until then, good luck starting week 2, JD. But until then, take it easy, man. Thanks so much.
All right, peace.